Good morning, everyone. This is Diane Murray at Southern Art Gallery. It's been a while since I've been here with you. As many of you know, we experienced a Hurricane Sally. We had major damage, and we have been in the process of cleaning up since September the 16th. So we finally have the end in sight. And if any of you have never been in a hurricane, it is not a pleasant experience. But that being said, this has been a challenging year for everyone, so I thought we would end the year with some positive videos and get you inspired to do something a little different. What we're going to talk about today is mounting watercolor paper on a hard substrate. This is a beautiful little panel. This is currently my favorite way of mounting watercolor paper. Let me get one of these panels and show you. This is a panel by Davinci Pro Panels. This is a smooth surface. They come in textured surfaces, which I think are a little too rough to adhere to. So I prefer the smooth surface. You might like the other surfaces, so I would say give this a try. They're cradled with this nice wood, and this is how they come, and you can put them in a frame, or you can just leave them unfinished, or you can finish the edges. I'll show you one that I did. This actually turned out to be one of my most favorite paintings. It's done on the panels, and I had pre-painted the sides, and then I just roughed up the sides to give it more of a rough look, since this is a rough textured handmade paper. This has been spray painted with coats of Krylon, and I'll get into that in a minute. But it doesn't really, as you can see, it doesn't really have a sheen. I use the matte finish mostly. But if you'll find that in some places, if you find this ghosting, you have to use the gloss. So I'll explain how to do that in a minute. But anyway, that gives you an idea of how they look. And then I just finish them on the back with the wire. And it makes a nice little presentation. And this can easily be put in a frame if someone decides to do that. So that's one way of doing it. This is another way of mounting your watercolor paper. This is masonite board. This can easily be put in a frame. This will have to be put in a frame. This is Arches paper, and this is a really dark surface, so you have to be really careful with how you do your finish, because if you spray paint the matte finish over a dark color, it's going to do what they call ghosting, which gives you this kind of white overlay kind of look, which isn't very pretty. So what you have to do is to first do a gloss varnish, several coats of that, and then put the matte varnish on top. So that's that one. This is another example done on a hardboard. The one thing I found about doing this on the masonite hardboard is when you glue the paper to the masonite, it will actually bow this masonite unless you put it on very heavy books on top of this to dry. And then you have to be careful that this is completely dry so that it doesn't stick. But the way around this is to spray paint the back, or seal the back of the hardboard first, and then when you adhere the paper to the board and then paint on it as it gets wet, it won't bow as much. You can also straighten this if you just and I didn't try real hard to straighten this because it just has a tiny little bow in it, but it can be done. Because this was, again, a dark surface, you can see a little bit of ghosting right here. The first coat I put on here was matte, and it did a lot of the ghosting, so then I went back over it with the gloss, And then I just went back and forth. I did a coat of gloss and a coat of matte. And then once I got it where I wanted it, I finished it with the matte finish. So this is something you're just going to have to experiment with to find out what works best for you. This is the adhesive that I use. It's a neutral pH, and it's made by Line Co. And this is archival. You can use a lot of people use gloss medium. I prefer to use this adhesive because it adheres better. It has a much more stronger adhesion, so I like that. This is the archival spray that I use. This is the matte. It's UV Archival by Krylon, and it doesn't yellow, and it creates a nice protective surface. This is the gloss. So most people recommend using the gloss first and then going over it with the matte. You'll have to see what works best for you. The gloss is the safest, but it's not as protective, and it has too much of a shine for me. So I always go back over it with the matte finish because I like that soft matte finish. There you have it. This is what I've been working on. This is Arches rough paper, which I tend to like to paint on rough paper better. So you can see, I'm really pleased with how these are turning out. And they do, and I've had them for a while out in sunlight, and apparently it is archival and it is UV protective because they have not faded and changed colors. I've had this one for several months, and the colors are remaining true. So I think this is a very nice alternative to putting your watercolors behind glass. And the only thing you have to do, and the best way to do it, is to put your paper, your watercolor paper, down on a clean surface like a paper towels, and then to turn it over and to place once you've got it glued, I leave a little overhang, and then I go back with a X-Acto knife like this, and I cut it on one of those green mats that are self-healing mats. And if you cut it, you just take it along the edge and you cut it several nice, easy cuts. Then you'll clean it up. And the other thing I like to do is I like to sand the edges because it gives you a really beautiful finish. And I use those little sanding blocks. And so that's how I finish them. And you can also do this with a painting that you have already painted. To me, that's just more dangerous. I like doing it with blank paper, and then, if I mess it up, I can actually put a palette knife under here and peel this paper off and then replace the paper. I don't like messing with my finalized paintings because too many things can go wrong. So this is just how I prefer to do it. You do have to be careful though, because you can mark your paper if you're not careful. But yeah, this is what I've been playing with lately. And actually I'm doing most of my paintings this way right now. I still paint on watercolor ground, but there's something about painting on paper that just, there's nothing like it. And I think watercolorists, that's why we do watercolor, because it has these qualities that are so magical, and you can't get them with oils or acrylics or any other medium that I've found. And this gives you a way to actually paint on the paper and preserve it so that you don't have to put it behind glass. So I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you give it a try and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and happy holidays.